Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano. This is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program, folks, is just about that. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Liberty Talk Radio. Glad you can join us. I really wish you could see me right now. Not that I'm that good looking, but I'm wearing a new T-shirt. I love wearing T-shirts to the studio. I have my whole entourage here, and it's being videoed, so you can see this T-shirt on LibertyTalkRadio.com. It'll be dominantly pressed. I guess it'll be on the video screen, right? And it says, "Zombies are us." It's interesting. Zombies are us. Zombies are very popular today, no matter where you go on television, there's a program around zombies, The Living Dead, and I think they have all the same people performing the same thing. They all walk the same way. They all look the same way. And for some reason, they all lean the same way. It's like they've been in a storm and they're never straightened out, It's kind of comical. And, the zombies are supposed to be dead, and yet they shoot them and they die. I don't understand that. But anyway, zombies. And you know what zombies are. Now, you see, if you want to predict the future, folks, and I mean this is the truth. If you want to predict the future, right, you don't have to read any books. You don't have to go in depth into economic reports or even look back at history. All you need to do is watch science fiction. Because typically what science fiction does, it is projecting who we are. And I mean that sincerely. I didn't realize this back in the 1970s when Star Wars first came out? 1970s when Star Wars first came out. In fact, I was in New York. I was visiting my sister in New York. We went to go see Star Wars. And little did I know at that time that what the author was doing was projecting who we were in the future. And you say, well, geez, that doesn't make sense. I want you to think for a second. The Death Star, right? The evil empire, right? Darth Vader. I love the line, "The Emperor does not share in your optimistic appraisal of the situation," then he kills the guy. I love that line. But if you look at it, look at the second wave of Star Wars. They have drones. Start thinking, and you say evil empire. Just think of what the impression is of foreign countries when they see drones flying over their land. And many people in that country, if you said the United States, they would have no idea what you are talking about. They don't even know it's a country. They've interviewed people in northern Pakistan who are being hit. These are civilians being hit by drone bomb blast. And that people said, the United States, we don't know what that is. Forget it being a country and where it is. They didn't even know what it is. They've never even heard of it. And yet, they're being killed. Men, women, and children who have no idea what you might as well say gobbledygook to them. And if you're by a seaport and you see the USS Ronald Reagan, one of the biggest aircraft carriers, if not the biggest aircraft carrier in the world, literally darken the entire area, the entire port. It overshadows everything. Is that not the Death Star? What is it doing there? You want to predict the future, you want to know where we're going, watch science fiction. It always works. Look at what's happening. There's so many science fiction movies where they start out, and it just opens this way, where you have a bunch of dissidents or rebels, or whatever you want to call them, and they're hiding in rubble somewhere, and overhead are flying these flying machines, futuristic airplanes, if you will, and those are the government, seeking out to eradicate whatever remaining rebels there are on the planet. And of course, those are the good guys. And we watch and we root for the good guys. When we leave the movies, we say, geez, that was great. Popcorn was great. Man, that was great. Even got to kiss my girlfriend. Oh, I had a great time. Good movie. When we leave the movies, the first thing that we do, we start rooting for the government. We do a 180. You see, while we're watching the movie, we throw away our normalcy bias. We're watching it as if it is reality. Because if we didn't, we wouldn't enjoy the movie. We say, oh, that's stupid. Oh, that couldn't happen. That never happened. So we buy into it. Listen, folks, we buy into the movie. We know those are the rebels. We're rooting for them. We really feel passionate about it. And then when those drones come over and they start bombing with the lights and the lasers and whatever, in our minds we're going, boo, boo, knock them out, shoot them, But then when we leave the movies, our normalcy bias returns and we start rooting for the government all over again. All right? That's the definition, the best definition that I can find of a zombie. And folks, unfortunately, a large portion of our population, and I would go on the limb by speculating that it is a majority of the population have that mentality. In other words, we are zombies for the most part. That should scare the hell out of us. How many times? You know what? I had a listing. I had a listing of, you're a zombie if, and I have about 20 or 30 of them, but I just want to give you a few, just to give you an idea. Let me see if I can pick out some. Yeah, you're a zombie if you voted for the lesser of two evils. You're a zombie if you believe that the Senate and Congress will do the right thing for you and our country at the last moment to save the day. You're a zombie if you're waiting for our government to get us out of this financial mess. You're a zombie if you believe that the United States is home of the brave, land of the free. A real zombie. I mean, you're a head zombie on that one. You're a zombie if you believe the mainstream media. Anything. In fact, you're a zombie if you watch the mainstream media and don't believe them. You're wasting your time. You're a zombie if you believe that the terrorists flew airplanes into the World Trade Center because they hated our freedom. And I'll bet a majority of the population, I don't care if they have postdoctorate work at Cornell University, would say that. You're a zombie if you get your news from the mainstream media. And if you believe that you're a zombie if you believe the dollar is as good as gold. I can go on for probably this entire hour talking about that. And few will debate that. What we will do is we will reject that. We would say, well, he's right, but Joe, he's crazy, he's just trying to rile you up, Let's go become normalized again. We'll root for the government. That's what we do. That's what our minds do, folks. We're zombies because we've been indoctrinated to be a zombie. It is very difficult. You must relinquish, you must discard every one of your belief systems. Zombies don't. Zombies actually cultivate in their minds more and more belief systems as they are fed. They don't suck the blood out of people. They just suck the information from the government, put it in their heads, and become worse. I have a neighbor of mine. Wonderful people. I'm not saying. And she asked me if I was going to vote. I said no because there was no one on the ballot that I thought was qualified. They say, vote for the candidate of your choice. My candidate of choice wasn't even allowed to be on the ballot. She cried, went into the house. She hasn't spoken to me since. Zombie, a wonderful woman. I would trust her with every dime I own, with my family, with everything. She's a wonderful person. But you see what I'm talking about. We're not talking about bad people. We're not like, oh boy, there's a zombie. That's really a bad person. I wouldn't trust them. No, no. Your most trusted friends. Your most trusted family members. People who you love. Most likely, zombies. You see, zombies are us. And what's interesting about zombies are us, isn't it strange that us also is the abbreviation for the United States? I thought that was interesting. Zombies are us. Zombies are the USA. Strange. Okay, well, I didn't tend to go on this diatribe, but, today, I want you to really think about that, because if you don't, and you don't start challenging everything that you hear, if you don't stop wasting your time, or had one of those, if you're a zombie, if you spend more than 30 hours, up to 30 hours a week watching television. I can't tell you, folks, how many times, folks, I really think this is not a program about politics, but about our minds. It's evolving into a program about our minds. You never hear me talk about the Democrats, Republicans, what Obama said, and it's all garbage. It's garbage. I watch this on. What I don't understand is, why do we spend so much time analyzing every word every senator, every congressman, and every official says about every issue, and the unimaginable time that we spend discussing specifics of other countries, of what's happening in Syria, for example. Could anyone please call me 855-866-1170, 855-866-1170, and would someone tell me that? Oh, we have to watch this news, which is manufactured. We have to watch it anyway. I don't understand. We want to know why we're zombies. Watch the news. You're a zombie. People say, you watched the news last night? I go, what for? Oh, I guess you're not informed, are you? You're the type of guy, you're a talk show host. I tell you what, you don't watch the news. You're a kook. You're one of those kook guys. What's the matter with you? I bet you run around in your underwear. At least clean your underwear before you run around it, you jerk. I mean, that's the type of response I get. I don't watch the news. I'm reading, but I don't watch the news. I don't want to become a zombie. Hey, I need to calm down. I need a cup of coffee. Why don't we just take a quick break? Okay, folks, we're back. I just want to make mention that supporting our sponsors is supporting this program. Supporting this program is supporting the march towards freedom and liberty and breaking the normalcy bias. If you don't want this program on the air anymore, don't support any of the sponsors. I can tell you that. Because without them, this program would not be possible, and this program is absolutely critical to our survival, and I'm not being a fathead about it. Because I search the airwaves and say, give me a program, give me a program, give me a program. And all I hear is Syria, Egypt, Russia, China. I don't care what's happening there. I want to know what's happening here and in my mind. So this program, I think, at least, I'm biased, obviously, I think is important. L&L Machine Guns, and they're affiliated with McCool's Firearms at 31st Street. Wonderful people. Wonderful people. Tulsa Gold and Silver. Wonderful people. All people that I do business with. Go Foods. I do business with. I don't have anyone advertise on my show that I do not support personally myself. Period. If I don't do it, I don't expect anyone else to. All right. I have here someone sent me this. It's called Ineptocracy. Ineptocracy. A system of government where the least capable to lead are elected by the least capable of producing, and where the members of society least likely to sustain themselves or succeed are rewarded with goods and services paid for by the confiscated wealth of the diminishing number of producers. I love that. And it's a t-shirt. I have to get that t-shirt. Isn't that wonderful? All right? That means the few left over Those rebels, the ones that you root for when you go to the movies, are the ones that are supporting everyone else. Now, what you need to do, folks, is when you leave the movies and you watch one of these movies, and you leave and you're rooting for the rebels, when you leave, you are to become a rebel. You are to continue to root for the rebels. That's going to be tough for you to do. By the way, today's program, I wanted to touch on the school system. I did a program earlier this week on another broadcast, the internet broadcast, about our school system. I said, hey, I have a solution to our school system. Of course, everyone laughed. They go, oh, yeah, only you would say that, Joe, you know. These minds, these PhDs have been studying this thing for years. Of course, you have a simple answer. Let me have it. Well, I have it for you, folks. Let's set the stage. It's very simple. Look at our school system in the cities. Now, just take the cities just for a moment. We'll reduce the problem geographically. The graduation rate, this is official number. This is an official number, by the way. The graduation rate of high school students in the major cities in the United States, and by the way, Tulsa, which is to me a big town more than a small city, it includes towns like Tulsa, includes towns like Oklahoma City, Kansas. Not only Detroit and Los Angeles. It had, I've got the number of cities, but there were 50 or 100 major cities. Graduation rate is 49%. And of the 49%, very few, a infinitesimal amount, are graduating at the level they are at the grade level that they graduate. In other words, they may have graduated, but their reading level was 6th grade, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, the statistics, the results are abysmal. In fact, if you and I opened a school and tried to do what we're really going to screw this up, we could not do as badly, and I'll tell you why. Just look what happens in any city school, for the most part. You walk into the classroom, there's havoc, because half of the students don't want to be there, don't want to be there at all. Some would just sit there numb and not learn anything. And then you have a select few who will disrupt the rest of the class. Well, the way things are right now, when you're in that classroom, the way the government has it, you have to, the teacher's no longer a teacher. They're behavioralists, they're child psychologists, they're policemen, they're everything. Oh, and they have to know all the rules, regulations, and laws, because if they say or do something or touch a student the wrong way or even shake hands with them, they can go to jail. So the teacher is stuck with all of these. Let's say there's 30 or 33 students in a classroom. Now, let me tell you, I have experience because I taught project business for years to 7th and 8th grade students. That was the project from hell. It was hell. Everyone was hell. And it got so bad, so incredibly bad, that I just one day in the middle of the class, in the middle of a sentence, I'm not kidding you, in the middle of a word, I just stopped, looked at the students. The classroom was going nuts. And I just walked out. Didn't say goodbye to the students, didn't say goodbye to the teacher, just turned around and walked out the door. This is God's honest truth. It's a school here in Tulsa, main school here in Tulsa. I'm walking down the hall, and all of a sudden I hear a couple of kids chant, "Mr. Cristiano, come back, come back." And I couldn't believe it. And I turned around, and every one of the students that were in that classroom was now in the hall. Now, folks, I don't know about you, but when I went to school, if I was caught in the hall, in between, during class time, death. I mean, you wouldn't even think of that. I mean, you would have a pass and pray that no one saw you, even if you had a pass. It was that bad. It was that much. It was a violation that you could not comprehend. It was like first-degree murder. And here they are, all out following me. And I turned around, and folks, this is the God's honest truth. And I was shaking. I was so angry. I said, why did I do this for years? And this is all I get is aggravation from these kids. No respect, no discipline, nothing. And I looked at the kids, and I was so deathly afraid I was going to say something You know what I mean? Maybe a swear word or say something illegal or nasty, where I was going to go to jail. I really was afraid. And I stood there with my finger shaking at them, and they were quite a distance from me, like 25 feet or so. And I'm shaking, and I'm afraid of what's coming out of my mouth. And I looked at them, and I finally said something. And I said about the most cruel thing I could have said. I didn't plan it, it just came out. And here are the words I said to them. I said, I don't need you. They froze in that hall. It was as if you took the life out of every one of those kids. And I saw them, they just froze. They didn't say a word. First time in my life I think they've ever been disciplined. And I turned around, walked out, and got into my old little Toyota Tercel and left the school. And I felt so guilty. I live with that every day. I don't need you. This is the state of our school system. You know, every teacher that you speak with will tell you not about the subject matter, about the school grades, but how difficult it is getting anything across, because you have a small select group of kids who are running the class. I can tell you, I'll need hours to give you examples. I mean, fights breaking out between girls over some other kid, a boy. And we're talking 7th and 8th graders. Swearing. I mean, total chaos in the classroom. Now, some of them were not that way, but they didn't listen. They didn't care. They were nasty, and they were unhappy. I said, this is the state of our school system. You know what the school system must be like in places like inner Detroit, in the sophomore and juniors, and I mean, the graduation rate is less than 30%. You can imagine what it must be to have a student being a teacher saying, no, you have to be, even if you're carrying a knife and a gun and you're killing the kid next to you, you have to sit in your chair. I can't throw you out. I'm exaggerating. Don't call it. No one's learning. All right, you would say, all right, Joe, what's the solution? Here's the solution, folks. You know, I set you up because this is reality. This is not the movies. This is reality. Now, the graduation rate in suburban schools is much higher. It goes up to the high 70s, I think. Because there's always some kids leaving for some reason or another. And not always because they're bad kids or marked, they're leaving. Right? So, in some places, as high as 90% in some very, very good school systems. Right? But we're talking about the cities now, a bulk of the kids. This is what I would do. Here I am. Right? Teacher gets in front of the class. Kid is disruptive. You say, Johnny, you're being disruptive. You've got to learn. You've got to be obedient. You have to be respectful of your fellow students. Then he goes, hey, man, go da-da yourself up. You say, thank you, Johnny. You take Johnny. He's out of the class. No question. He's just out. Not out of your class. He's out of school. Goes to the principal. They say, okay, Johnny Bisquick, da-da-da-da. Johnny, thank you very much. Take to the streets. Right? Now, how long will it take before you got a group of students who really wanted to learn? I don't answer that question, but I would say if you had 33 students in an overcrowded typical classroom, you would wind up with somewhere around 15 kids. That's my guess, and I could be wrong. But let's play along with it. Now there's 15 kids. You've done that to all the bad kids. The only kids that are left in the class are those kids who are motivated to learn. How about that for a classroom? You say, well, what about the other kids? Now, wait, let's talk about the kids that are in the class. Forget about the other kids. But now, the kids that are in the class are all motivated to learn. Now, let's assume the entire school does that. That school, from being an impoverished school, mentally impoverished, economically impoverished in every way possible, all of a sudden becomes a model school. Graduation rate, 100%. Most kids go to college or go to trade. In other words, they're all ambitious kids who leave and become productive members of society. Everybody in the area wants their kids to go to that inner city school because kids there are motivated to learn, and they're learning something, and they're becoming somebody. And on the subject, let me hear from you. 855-866-1170. I want to hear from you. 855-866-1170. Please interrupt me. Of course, you can send me your comments anytime to comments@libertytalkradio.com. But just think, all of a sudden, overnight, and this would take a couple of weeks and would not cost a penny. You have a teacher now who's excited about getting to the classroom because you have students who are motivated to learn. And the whole school's that way. No more knives in the halls with kids stabbing and having none of that. All gone. Isn't that wonderful? You say, well, Joe, you're obviously missing the obvious. What about the kids? By the way, do we have a break coming up? Okay, we have a break coming up. Hold that thought. Stay with us, but do come back at 855-866-1170 when we come back. I know why we have no calls in this morning thus far is because I'm so captivating. People are just stymied. I mean, they're just frozen like deers in a headlight, looking at headlights. But I would like you to call 855-866-1170. I want this to be a two-way conversation. I want to know what is on your mind. We have to have a consensus. I don't care if you're progressive or you're Republican, a neocon, liberal. I don't care what. It's immaterial. All that is immaterial. It's us. Us. It's not the political parties at all. I want to make mention also one other thing before we continue on. We talked about our sponsors. Folks, if you are not preparing in one way, shape, or form, and please don't get me wrong, I'm not talking you got to dig a hole 500 feet below the surface of the earth and anything like that, but have something. It's dangerous at any time, especially today. Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when something will happen and there'll be some sort of disruption. And when I say that, I mean, fill in the blank yourself. I don't know what that's going to mean or what's going to happen. If I did know, hey, boy, I'd be a trillionaire overnight. But are you prepared? If you want a way to get prepared, and also pay for your food, give one of our sponsors a call. That's Gary Murphy, and he's at Go Foods, and it's 918-271-2523. That's 918-271-2523. Food is your greatest dependency. Let that scare you. Food is your greatest dependency. Gary's here in Tulsa. He can help you out in the whole bit. So please give him a call, 918-271-2523. All right. Now, people ask, well, Joe, if you take all those kids, you have a classroom of 33, and then you take 18 of them, and now they're on the street, what are those kids going to do? They're going to they're not going to have jobs. I said, well, no. Employers will hire them, depending on what they like to do. Maybe the kid there doesn't want to school, but he'd be a great welder. So he can go to a company, and a company will train him to weld. They say, well, there's no jobs. I said, no, all the employer has to do is saying, listen, Johnny, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take you in and I'll train you. This will be your school. I will train you. But while I'm training you, you're not going to get paid. In other words, I'm going to provide you with a skill, but you're not going to get paid. And by the way, that's how F.W. Woolworth got to start. The 5 and 10 magnet? He went for a job. And he went for a job at a variety store back in the turn of the century. And he sat down with the guy, he was all dressed up nicely, wanted a job in merchandising and whatever. And the guy says, certainly, son, I'll hire you. And then he asked Wilbert, said, well, how much will you pay me? He said, excuse me? He said, you want me to take 3 months of my time to train you, and you want me to pay you? Sir, you pay me. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll allow you to pay me through your labor. After you've learned the trade and I feel you're qualified, then I'll start paying you, and I will determine what that pay is. This is exactly what happened. Now, this guy, this kid, became one of the wealthiest men in the world. I mean, in America. You see my point? The same thing happens here. Kid comes in and says, I'll teach you how to weld it. You're not going to get paid. The kid says, well, what he'll do is he won't pay me and this and that. I said, yeah, he won't pay you because he'll be teaching you how to do something, giving you a trade. And if he doesn't pay you after 3 weeks, guess who loses? The company. You can say, well, now I'm an accomplished welder after 3, 6 weeks, whatever the case may be. You can go someplace else. You say, yes, I welded at ABC Welding Company. I want a job. You can get a good job. But now they won't hire you because you have to pay a minimum of $7.25, or there's a union, you got to pay a minimum $11.50 to start, and then they have to train you through this whole period of time, and then they run the risk of you leaving after training them. And this is what happens to welders. I know I have people in employee relations departments. They tell me this happens all the time. You say, well, Joe, there's child labor laws. I mean, there's the minimum wage laws. You go, wait a minute. Forget about that. What we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that part of the government, that regulation no longer exists. Think of the logic. Everyone would be employed. And not only that, but it would bring the cost of manufacturing down. Guess what would happen, folks? More jobs would return here to the United States. Oh, Joe, I know what you want to do. You want to impoverish the little man for the guy, and the rich get richer and the poor get... No. We're going to enrich the masses by giving them a trade and giving them an incentive. Remember, if you own a company and you are training someone, it is costing you a heck of a lot of money. That person's not producing. You have it all backwards. Let's take this caller. Oh, no, not yet. We don't know who it is yet. When we find out, here we go. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, John, I'm just not sure this is going to work because you're assuming one thing. You're assuming that there is still a work ethic in this country.
Oh, you're right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, all right, now follow that through for me. What is your name, by the way, your first name?
Randy.
Randy, okay, follow that through when you say no work. All right, you have a kid in the classroom. He's totally disruptive. He's screwing around, yelling, screaming, threatens the teacher. They throw him out, okay?
Right.
All right, now the kid's on the street.
Right.
Follow that through for me.
Well, there's no problem because of the president we have elected right now. They'll give this guy just enough money to be able to survive.
No, wait, don't go there. No, you're getting to politics. All right, the kid's on the street. You say there's no work ethic. This kid has no work ethic. Follow that through for me.
Right. Well, I mean, he's going to end up probably in jail.
All right. Well, maybe. Or...
Well, that's the trend that we're seeing nationwide.
Yeah.
We have more people incarcerated per capita in this country than almost any country in the world.
Yeah,
I think actually more than any country in the world.
Right, and majority are for victimless crimes, because they had maybe some pot on them or something like that. You see, my point, Randy, is that we can't stop our thinking there. We have to say, this kid's on the street, and then this kid's got a wake-up call. Oh, yeah, he can go into crime. But then you say, well, then we're going to have half of our kids in crime. Crime is a business like anything else. There are only so many criminals. You can only support so many criminals. After a while, the criminals are feeding on the criminals. I mean, you see what I mean?
Well,
you
yeah,
have to do that,
that's exactly right.
Now,
almost every science fiction novel ever developed has always gone to that theme.
All right, now, if the kid is on the street, what kind of crime is he going to commit? What do you think he'll do?
Well, it'll be theft or barter.
All right, theft. All right, he's got to steal from somebody, right? And he runs a risk of being caught or being shot, right?
Yeah, but at certain levels of theft, he develops some prestige among his friends.
Yeah, sure they can. You absolutely can.
Which is actually, that's an opportunity for him to actually get a little bit of, quote, respect for the first time in his life. He's never been willing to work for it.
Absolutely. And where are most gunfights, where are most people who are killed by gunfire, what do they belong to? What group?
Well, it's gang trafficking.
Gangs, right. You see, I mean, there runs an incredibly high risk. Not every kid, and I agree with you, I'm not disagreeing, not every kid's going to hit the street and says, oh, man, I'm going to become a professional criminal. Most of those kids are going to say, I've got a problem. I'm not going to eat. I've got to do something. Reality hits them. Now, some will turn to crime. Now, I thought what you were going to say is they're going to peddle drugs. My answer to that was going to be, because it's the segue to what I wanted to say next, is that, fine, then the next thing we do is we legalize drugs. Then first thing we do is we get rid of the NEA, the National Education Association, so we can do what we did. So we got rid of a good portion of the government right now, heavy-duty portion of the government. The second thing we do is that we get rid of the minimum wage so everyone can find a job and be trained to do something constructive. The third thing is that we get rid of the war on drugs altogether, legalize it all. Legalize every single drug. And they found out in the countries that have done that, crime and drug use has gone down precipitously. So I'm saying I want to solve all those problems all at the same time instead of exasperating them. Are you still with me, Randy?
All the lawsuits.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. And Randy, I didn't.
Imagine, yes, Joe. Imagine all the lawsuits that are going to subsequently develop then, when people on drugs are involved in various activities that either are civil pursuits against people's properties or rights or injuries,
Absolutely, absolutely, and then
once drugs are legalized, it's going to be it's going to be again a legal barter issue, and again the trial lawyers are going to be the ones to make out like bandits, no matter what you do in that environment.
Right. Well, now, what we are saying, Ray, what concerns me is that we are saying we can't make this right because there's too much risk. Randy, there is too much risk keeping it the way it is. The legal system will have to change. The legal system will have to change with everything else because there's so many judges. And if there are 10 times the number of lawsuits, they're going to have to wait online, and some people are going to have to wait 10 years to get online.
Oh, good luck with that. The American Trial Lawyers Association will love it.
Yeah.
They'll love it.
Yeah. But what I want you to do, Randy, please, what I want you to do is I want you to reset your mind. Hold on a second. Someone's going to... All right, go ahead, Randy. I'm sorry I stepped over your words.
No. The American Trial Lawyers Association is going to love it. They'll just produce more lawyers. They'll have more courtrooms. And then you notice that with this economy, with the downturns, with the recessions, with everything that we've encountered, the one entity that has never been mentioned as problematic are the trial lawyers. And yet most of the businesses in the world are held hostage by those entities.
All right, now I want you to, let's stop. Who are they going to sue? The school system? The school system's not doing anything wrong. Kid does something wrong.
They don't care.
You know, I mean, they can all line up. And, yeah, they can't sue the school system. School system has no money. First of all, secondly, they did nothing wrong. You see, I mean, once you take the attitude, say, now this is the right thing to do. There's no loss. They can sue all they want. They're not going to get anywhere. But then you get so many trial lawyers suing all of the schools, and you find that there's no money. What happens to the trial lawyers? They get jobs. They get a job at Walmart. That's the answer. They start pushing carts.
I mean, there's going to be some guy who shows up and he's going to test positive for drugs on a screen, and he'll have run over somebody's dog, and there'll be a big lawsuit. I mean, it's just going to continue on.
Well, we have
the whole problem is trying to do it. You're trying to artificially mandate a recurrence to morality when this country is basically starting to give it up.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, I don't want to mandate anything. I would say do what you want to do. And believe it or not, it'll work out. Once the government comes in and dictates what your morality should be, that's when you have the lawsuits. That's
no, the only people can dictate morality are family units.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, they're disappearing.
Absolutely. I was going to get into that.
In 1970, we had 12% of kids that were born to black families were out of wedlock. Now that number's over 80%.
Did you listen to my program last week?
No, I did not.
Well, if you go online, listen to my program last week. I went through that entire scenario, exactly what you're talking about, and may help you out. Okay? Thanks you so much for calling. Hey, Randy, thanks for calling in. If you'll send me an email to comments@libertytalkradio.com with a mailing address and a T-shirt side, I'd love to send you a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt so you can become one of the hordes of walking billboards for Liberty Talk Radio here in Tulsa, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye. But, he makes a good point. He said, but the problem we have is that as soon as we have a solution, we go, we can't do that. We can't, because look at this. There may be lawsuits. Yeah, everything will change. Everything will change. Guess what, folks? There may be fewer lawsuits because they'll realize how frugal it is. That we're not putting up with this crap anymore. We're not going to have this thing like, oh, Johnny stubbed his toe, so he's going to get $40 million. That's gone. It's all gone. We're going to clean up the system. Now, I said once we do that, we get rid of the NEA, we get rid of the war on drugs, right? And we get rid of the minimum wage laws. Now we run into another obstacle. Said, oh, then you subscribe to child labor. And, we have these images of child labor. That's why we're afraid. Oh, child labor. As if companies went to families and said, Mrs. Jones, give me your 4-year-old kid. He's working in my factory. Drag them in the streets and put him in a factory. Right? That's what you hear, right? That's what you're thinking, every one of you. No, that didn't happen. Mrs. Jones took their child, their 5-year-old child or whatever, brought him to the factory, said, would you please hire my child? We need the money. The families are the ones that abdicated their responsibility and abandoned their children to the companies. It wasn't the companies. It was the family that did that. You have that in reverse, as everything else is in reverse in this world. So if all these kids were on the street and all of a sudden you legalize drugs, there's no money in legalized drugs, folks. I mean, do you see people? I have not seen, at least in the past couple of years, anyone peddle aspirin. Anyone here? You see anyone peddle aspirin? You want to buy an aspirin? $50. I can buy a bottle of 500 at one of the big box stores for $4.49. Ain't no money in it. Make it illegal. We're gonna make it a big business. And guess what? You'll probably solve the border problem because you won't have drugs coming here illegal. I mean, anyone here can tell me in the studio, are the Mexican cartel, are they, is now aspirin a contraband? Is it coming over the border? Are they selling aspirin? No, they're not selling. Isn't that amazing? Now, it takes a society that's brave enough to do this. All I'm saying is once you free yourself from the government and you stop looking for the government for the solution, that's where you go down the wrong road. Remove yourself. Take your normalcy bias and throw it away. When you watch the movies and you're seeing the rebels against the bad guy, against the government drones and whatever, when you walk out, stay a rebel. Think. And stop putting up. The government has given you, and our television has given you all the obstacles for you to be convinced that there are no solutions unless the government does it. Every solution is within us. U.S. Us. And remember, zombies are us. You can elect to be a zombie or you can elect to be free. And if the government doesn't do it yourself. You say, well, how could I do that? If you have a child, homeschool. You've accomplished the same thing that I've talked about. Your child is there, and homeschooling is the easiest thing in the world today because of the internet. You don't have to order any books. You just sign on. We have break time? Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Folks, we have about one more minute. If you want to call 855-866-1170, just call in, say hello, make me feel good. I want to compliment Randy, our last caller. He's thinking. Now, he may have not thought it all the way through, and he may not have put the same amount of time that I put into the subject. So, because I was thinking the same way he was, and I walked through it. But he's thinking. See, he's unzombieizing, and I think this is something that we all need to do. We all need to think of it, and then every time we come up with an obstacle, we say, "Is that a true obstacle?" Just think. Just dream for a second. Dream with me for one moment. Let me put it this way. Randy is a resurrected zombie. That's what everyone say. He's a resurrected Randy, God bless you. But let me put it this way. Just dream of a school system where every kid walks to class and wants to learn and is motivated, and there's no crime. The teachers are motivated, and all the kids graduate, and all of them are honor students, and that could happen. Just get the government out. Folks, this is Joe Cristiano. You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio. This is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends and let us hear from you. Comments at libertytalkradio.com.